Hey there, Blazer fans, and welcome to episode 52 of The Dragon's Den, a podcast for those that bleed green and gold. Today, I have a very special guest, a former UAB football quarterback from 1999 to 2002, Mr. Thomas Cox. Thomas and I had a great conversation about his playing career at UAB and the great things he is up to now. Let's go ahead and jump in. Thanks for listening. All right, Blazer fans, I've got my guest here for episode 52 of the Dragon's Den podcast, a former UAB quarterback from 1999 to 2002, Mr. Thomas Cox. Thomas, how you doing today?
And I am great. Thank you so much, Will, for having me. Really appreciate it.
No, I'm super excited to hear some of your stories. I've had a few guys from your era, so it's always nice to have a fresh perspective, and
Yeah,
can't wait to hear.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, so I'll go ahead and dive right on in.
Sure.
You're from Birmingham. You
Yeah,
graduated from Jess Lanier High School, played for your dad.
I
What
did.
schools were looking at you coming out of high school, and what made you choose UAB?
So the small correction there is I went to ninth, 10th, and 11th grade at Hueytown High School, played
Gotcha.
against my dad.
Wow.
The first start I ever won was against my dad when I was a sophomore.
Wow.
And then played against him twice, was 1-1 against him, and then decided after another coaching change I wanted to play for him. So I grew up loving my father and just being an incredible, just human being in my life. So I decided to transfer to Jess Lanier. After football season, I went back to graduate with my friends. I was ineligible to play after that, but I didn't play other sports, so it was totally fine. So I really, I love playing for him. But coming out of high school, the recruiting process is totally different now than it was. My number one place was Georgia Tech. I really wanted to go to Georgia Tech. I love the coaches there and really had a great feeling there. They took the kid from Greenville, Alabama, who was a first round draft pick, baseball player. He was a lot better than I was, and so they took him. And then after that, it came down to Southern Miss, Memphis, and UAB. So um, I really like Southern Miss, but here's the story with Southern Miss. So I'm going to Southern Miss, and their number one guy was a guy named Tim Gallahan. He went to midfield, big, tall drink of water. He could throw it a mile, and so he went to Southern Miss the weekend before.
Mm.
And so I'm getting ready to go. So I was their backup, meaning I was if Tim didn't commit, I was going to be the guy. And so I'm getting ready to go on my visit. So I get a call on Thursday night and a voicemail. Thomas, this is Coach Nix. Tim Gallahan committed. No visit tomorrow. Thanks. And that's all I got. Bro, I was so tore up with that. And so there was that. And then I go to I go to Memphis and have a wonderful visit. Wonderful visit. The guys there were great. I got with some just great people that just love Jesus and the whole thing was wonderful. And then I go to UAB and I had a horrible visit. I got paired with the wrong guy. Not gonna say any names because I'm friends with them today. I got paired with the wrong host, and it was a disaster. Like it was so not my personality. But coming home from Memphis, I remember the Lord saying, "Hey, you need to be in Birmingham." And despite all the horrible visits, I decided to go to UAB, and it was the best decision I could have ever made. I loved UAB. Met my wife there. I mean, it's just such a good place.
Well, fast forward to 1998. You redshirted your
Yeah.
first year. What did you learn in that season?
Watson always used to like to travel the quarterback, so I got to learn that process, which was great. I got to learn the process of traveling, and I encourage coaches these days because I coached college football for 10 years. I encourage you got to get these quarterbacks in the rhythm of what they're going to do. So I got to travel a bunch, and then my senior year of high school, I hurt my non-dominant shoulder, and I had surgery the back end of that year, my freshman year. Probably should have had it done before that, but there was a little bit of the whole I don't want to affect a scholarship, but I knew it was my Don Dominant, knew it was fine. So three-fourths of the way through the year, I had surgery, had it taken care of. What did I learn? I learned more football in the first probably 2 or 3 weeks of fall camp than I had in the last 10 years. It was a wonderful, wonderful experience. Watson Brown, um, love him or hate him, he's a great mind, and he did a really good job at teaching us stuff. So I learned defenses. I learned terms. I learned coverages that I didn't know that were even existed. So all of that kind of stuff I learned a lot of. but understanding the rhythm of college football and the preparation schedule and how things are rhythmic, is incredibly important. So I would say those are the things I learned the first year.
Okay. Well, in 1999, you had Lee Jolly and Daniel Dixon ahead of
Yeah,
you in the quarterback room. Both went down to injury, and
yeah,
your starting debut was later that season against number 17 East Carolina, led
yeah,
by future NFL quarterback David Garrard.
yeah,
Um, you had two rushing touchdowns that day and a passing touchdown,
yeah.
and got help from a legendary performance from Rodriguez Brooks. UAB 136-17. So take us through that day from your perspective.
Lee got hurt 2 weeks ahead of time at the Cincinnati game. He was playing on special teams. Daniel was a starter. He was a clear-cut starter. Daniel was better than all of us. Daniel could operate the offense. Amazing athlete. Unbelievable human. Daniel gets hurt on Thursday in shorts. So nobody really remembers this. So we're in shorts and helmets on Thursday. Daniel gets hurt. He hands the ball off and takes a boot to the I think it's to his left and rolls an ankle. And if you knew Daniel during that time, the sucker stayed hurt with ankles and things like that. It just one part of who he was. We weren't sure if he was going to get ready to play, won't be ready to play. So I remember Coach Sullivan walking in the locker room, and here we are. We've already been through warmups. He comes in after warmups and say, "Hey, you're going to go today," and I'm like, "Well, I thought I was, but I wasn't really sure." So we go out there, and I mean, we were really, really good on defense. We ran the ball well. I did what I had to do. I did not have a spectacular performance. I rushed the ball well. I did what I did my job, but it was not like this. It was a highlight for the program because it was a first win against a ranked opponent. But as far as Thomas being dynamic, there wasn't another. I got the ball. I did my job. I was a facilitator, and so I just remember the day, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't remember the Rodriguez Brooks thing a lot. I remember it happening, but I was so engulfed in me playing and doing my job, I don't really remember that. I
That's
know it was a big
uh,
thing,
yeah.
but like I don't remember a lot about it. I remember him getting carted off. I remember him coming back. It was just like, all right, well, Grady's back. Okay, good. So, but I remember it being it was the first win against versus a ranked opponent in school
Mm-hmm.
history.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. So the rest of that season, UAB finished the 1999 season with a 5-6 record,
yeah,
ending the season with a win at Tulane in overtime, 23-20.
yeah.
What do you remember most from your first season? Getting college starts.
I I remember being frustrated as a kid, a 19-year-old kid, not going back in after we won that game. But I also believe that you never lose your job to injury. And so Daniel got healthy and came back, and we did fine. Um, so I don't really remember a whole lot. I remember being a little like frustrated at not playing, but I knew that I also knew in the back of my mind, hey, dude, he was the guy. He got hurt. You did your job. Now let him go finish his job. So that's really my biggest memory for that. I do remember. Okay, this is so funny. So the best fried chicken I've ever had was at the New Orleans uh, Marriott on Canal Street.
All right.
It was unbelievable, and I love fried chicken. So I do remember this. I do remember the guys going out that night, and then people sneaking out and going out and walking Bourbon Street and all that kind of stuff, because Bourbon Street was right next to Canal Street. I do remember that not being like a positive thing for our team, but like I think the guys had a real good time.
That's a pretty good memory right there.
Yeah,
So fast forward to 2000, your
yeah,
sophomore season, redshirt sophomore season, you played in 4 games. One of them was a start at LSU. What
yeah.
was the environment like, and what was it like seeing UAB come away with the win in a legendary fashion? Rhett Gallego kicking that
Yeah.
game-winning 32-yard field goal.
Funny thing is, I'm sitting there looking at that picture right now on my wall, and that's a lauded game, pretty big game. Let's dissect that game. Number one, I got the start because we weren't playing well. Number two, LSU played really, really bad. Number three, I got pulled about halfway through the second quarter, and Daniel went in and finished the game and won the game. So yes, I got the start, but I didn't play very well, and Daniel finished the game out. A lot of people don't remember that. As far as the program is concerned, it's massive, massive. Rhett and I went to high school together, still great friends to this day. Um, that's probably a bigger win than East Carolina. Um, Saban's first year, all that,
Mm-hmm.
all the things. But it was I go back to this, and people don't realize this. People think that that's the loudest place in college football,
Mm-hmm.
and for us, the loudest place in college football was Florida. We played Florida my senior year, and it was louder. But the reason it was not as loud is because we got up on LSU and
Mm-hmm.
stayed in the hunt, and it calmed everybody down.
Yeah.
I really, really believe that. And they weren't great. They were not great. And when your team's not great, you don't cheer and yell and raise Cane as much.
Yeah. Well, 2001 UAB was on a three-game losing streak after falling at Southern Miss 3-0. I was at that game. That was just
Yeah.
wild. But you see, like following week, you fall at UCF,
Yep.
then Cincinnati, but then you go to face Tulane, and you set a then program record 177 rushing yards for a quarterback, still a top 20 by any player at UAB, and helped lead the team to a 34-27 win, which started a four-game win streak over
Yeah.
Memphis, Tulane, and Houston. You had a strong performance in all those games. I'm going to
Yeah.
loop my question in with a question I got from Paul Ensign on X. He said, uh, he said that he wanted to know about what it was like being a big underdog to Tulane, having to
Yeah.
start when Jeff Aaron was injured that week. He said you tore Tulane up, even got an unsportsmanlike conduct after throwing a pick and then sending a defensive back into the benches and the water cooler.
Yeah.
What do you remember from that Tulane game and that four-game win streak?
The funny thing is I met that head coach at Tulane this past weekend. I went to watch the Memphis Tulsa game because one of my best friends is the head coach at Tulsa,
Wow.
and I met him. And what do I remember? I remember Jeff getting hurt
Mm,
the week before, and me having to go in and finish out the Cincinnati game, not doing a whole lot. And I remember Jeff getting hurt and me having to play. And I remember us running the ball really, really well because Jeff and I were really different. Jeff was a drop back throw it a mile quarterback, and I was more of a dual threat. Um, the dual threat could throw it fine, but ran it well.
mhm,
And we ran the ball well, and we were good on defense. I mean, Eddie and
mhm,
Brian and Rodney and the two, I think Ray John was on that team. The two guys from East Mississippi that played linebacker. We were good. God, we were good
mhm.
on defense. And so in that year, I had to manage the game, like true game manager. I, we ran for a lot. I did, the bad thing about it is when you're a quarterback and your claim to fame is a penalty, that ain't good. Okay, that is the highlight of my career, is me getting that 15-yard unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. So, but I remember rushing the ball real well that game. I remember having a headache for 3 days, and you hear about all these guys having concussions and all this stuff. I remember we had concussions all during that time,
Mhm,
you know, um, and then we go to TCU. No, TCU comes to us next week, and they shut the run down.
mm,
Gary Patterson was a head coach, and he's a defensive dude.
mhm.
They shut the run down. We threw for over 200 yards and won.
Wow.
That game, I think, was Roddy White's first touchdown pass. So
That,
here's what happened. This is
yeah.
a crazy story. So I hand the ball to Jagiel on
Mhm,
a zone play to the right, and he goes to the right, and I boot out to the left, and as I boot, I'm looking back at Jagiel. So as I look back to Jagiel, I'm looking this way, and the left corner comes up, and he plants his face mask in my chest. And the first thing to hit the ground was the back of my neck. I couldn't breathe.
God.
It was awful, awful. Okay, I didn't know I mean, it was awful. Jeff goes in to hand the ball off. I sit on the ground for a second to kind of get my bearings. Jeff goes in and hands the ball off. I go back out and I walk back on the field. As I'm walking, you know what the guy's last name was?
Mm.
Godbolt. Something, something Godbolt. So I walk back on the field. As I'm walking back on the field, I look over at this guy and I just point at him. Watson calls just a basic 5-yard hitch. The
Mhm,
conversion rules are if they're bumping on the hitch, He's going to convert it to a go.
Mm-hmm.
The same corner was over there. He converts it to a go, and I throw it to Roddy, and that was Roddy's first touchdown pass.
Mm. Wow.
And you sit there and you go, wow, how serendipitous was that? So we go through that game and we go for the Tulane and we run a lot and we win the
Mm-hmm.
game. We go to Memphis, or excuse me, to TCU, and we have to throw the ball. With over 200 yards for passing. And then we go to Memphis and I played horrible. I just wasn't efficient, but man, the defense played so well that game. They carried it. So where as I quote unquote carried us one game on the ground and then did a really good job of facilitating the ball in the air against TCU. That I played really really bad against Memphis and the defense played great. We won the game. So that's just the way football goes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the next week we go to Houston, and it was a all around game. I think we had 150, 175 yards passing, 130 yards passing, 130 yards rushing. It was just one of those things where I just kind of had to do a little bit of everything. And then, and that was that was a great game, great run, great run. And then the story that nobody ever tells is we're getting on the plane, or get on the bus at the facility. Have you heard this story before?
Probably not.
We're getting on the bus, leaving the facility, going to the airport, and we hear that the Mobile Bowl
Mm-hmm.
is going to take East Carolina, who we'd already beaten, and Marshall in the Mobile game
Mm-hmm.
because it was David Garrard versus Byron Leftwich. And they got in, even though we had a winning record that year. We had 6 wins, they got in. And it was 2001, so it was 9/11 year.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to go to Pittsburgh and play
Mm-hmm.
Pitt because that's the game that got pushed.
Oh,
Okay.
gotcha.
And we hit Pitt at a bad time because they lost 5 in a row to start the season. They
Mm-hmm.
were had no identity. They were playing horrible. And we go up there and they had to beat us to get to the Tangerine Bowl.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat us. We played fine, but they were better than we were. And they beat us, and that was the end of that run.
Gotcha.
Great season, but it was really demoralizing for us to know that no matter what we did, we weren't going to a bowl game.
Yeah. Well, to go back to a point you made about Roddy, you know, that was a huge pass, 52-yard touchdown pass. How soon did you know that he was destined for big things?
I
Like,
didn't.
you didn't?
I didn't.
Okay.
To be honest with you, I didn't. The next year, he had a great year. I didn't know at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I knew he was different. I knew he was better,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't know at the time how good he was. Obviously, he, proved to be that, and he was an animal. I remember the best thing I remember. One of the things I remember about Roddy is I was already coaching, and it was about 3 years in, 2 3 years into him being with the Falcons, and I was in Atlanta recruiting. And I texted him, was like, hey, let's go eat lunch, whatever. And I saw him, and no lie, Will, he looked like an action figure. He had grown, he had gotten, his muscles were so big, he had just morphed into this, like, you hear the word freak and that sounds really loose, like he looked like a freak. And I remember going, good God. He was just big and strong and obviously had a massive success in the NFL for a number of years. But I bet to be honest with you, I didn't really recognize it when it happened.
Okay. That's
Yep.
fair. Well, you've talked about it a little bit, the different styles and everything, but you weren't only efficient with with your legs. You were also a top quarterback in terms of passing yards per completion. Did you prefer to air it out more? I know you said you kind of had a specific style coming out of high school, as well. But
Yeah.
did you prefer to air it out more? Did you like the heavy run with Watson? What was your preference?
I wanted to I knew that all quarterbacks were judged on wins, and so I wanted to win. And I knew that I had to do different things. I like getting the ball out of my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I like getting the ball out of my hand. And so whether it would be a quick pass to let one of those better athletes catch it, or getting the ball out of my hand quick to a Dan Burks or a Jaquil Duggar or somebody like that. I wanted to continue to do that. I did not love the multiple level reads. I wanted to catch the ball, make a great throw, get it to somebody, and let them go to work because that was the best thing for our team.
Yeah, yeah, no doubt. Well,
Yep.
you've already name dropped a lot of guys. You know, you played alongside some of the greats. You know, Brian Thomas, you mentioned Willie Quinney,
Oh,
Jill Duggar,
yeah.
Ray Gallego, Zach Woodfin. You know, Eddie Freeman, Jeff Aaron, Daryl Hackney, all these
Yep.
guys. I could go on and on. What was it like playing alongside these guys, going through the grind of training, the battles on the field, and and all the stuff off the field? What was it like playing with them?
There were some characters now. Let me tell you something. Brian and Eddie were a bunch of characters. They were great human beings. Brian Thomas had a locker right across from me, and so I sat 10 feet from him for multiple years. A wonderful, wonderful human being. Um, got a picture of my mom's house of a spring game where I'm rolling out and he is breathing down my neck. It's a great picture. Um, but being in the room with those guys at the time, they're just like you. You didn't realize Brian Thomas was going to go play 8 or 10 years in the NFL.
Hmm.
You didn't realize that. You didn't realize that Zach Woodfin was going to go be the head strength coach of the Tennessee Titans. You didn't realize that. You didn't realize all of those things.
Hmm.
You know, Tanner Allen owns a mortgage company. Who would have thought that? Yeah, I mean, Mark Pettis, who's one
Hmm.
of my best friends, is the pastor of one of the top 4 or 5 largest churches in America.
Wow.
Who'd have thought that? I mean, in reality, you're just making relationships and friendships for life.
Hmm.
Daryl Hackney and I are still really close. Sam Williamson, who played on that defensive line, as a young guy on
Hmm.
that defensive line, is one of my best friends. I mean, he is a lifer for me.
Hmm.
Got a text last week. Hey, bro, love you. Just like nothing. He loves my kids. My kids love him. I love his kid. Because we worked together for 6 years at Tennessee Tech. We coached for Watson. So you don't you don't realize it when you're in the moment, but like the thing that people don't realize about college sports is the compressed time that you spend with somebody. You find out, number one, who people really are. Number two, you create relationships, for life
Hmm.
through that. And so being a college athlete is a very, very special thing.
Yeah.
College athletes are built different. They are. I don't care what sport you're playing. They're built different. And a college athlete is always going to get a longer look when it comes to hiring, when it comes to doing business with, when it comes to communication. They're always going to get a second look from me. Justin Kraft, who I work with to this day, over at Allen Associates, is the same way. He's hired multiple college athletes. UAB, Arkansas, different places like that, just because he knows the value of playing ball in college.
Yeah. So, in your senior season, you saw action in 6 games. As you
Yeah.
look back on your career at UAB, how did you feel about your time as a Blazer, and how do you hope UAB fans remember you?
I look back on my time, and I wish I would have done more on the mental part of the game with Coach Sullivan. I wish I've spent more time with Coach Sullivan and Coach Brown, learning more because I went on to be a college coach and I didn't realize that what I could have learned more that way. That was going to be the way I could have probably played more. Daryl Hackney was better than I was. He beat me out my senior year. Jeff was a better athlete than I was. I was sandwiched between two dudes, but I got it done in the time that I was asked to. When I didn't play well, Daryl ended up beating me out, which I deserved it. He was a better player, and but I was there to support him.
Hmm.
That last game, let me think, the last pass I ever threw in college was a touchdown to TJ Simmons.
Wow.
And in that same game, I caught a pass from Daryl. People don't realize that. I caught and put through and caught a pass in the same game at Cincinnati. But how would I want people to remember me? I want people to remember who I was as a human, as opposed to a player. I
Hmm.
was a decent player. I wasn't great. My kids will probably be better college athletes than I was. But I was a decent player. But I just want people to remember the human being that I was. The stand that I took for Jesus in college, the being there for people, picking the drunk buddies up at the middle of the night type stuff, being there for people. I mean, those types of things. I'd rather people remember me as being the human as opposed to the player.
Okay. All right.
So,
Well, so, you mentioned it a little bit. You got into coaching after your playing career. You were a high school coach and then grad assistant at NC State, and then you
yep,
coached at Tennessee Tech under former coach Watson Brown. What
yep.
was it like coaching alongside your former head coach?
Hard. He was hard on us. He's a great human being, but he was hard on us. Probably harder than normal.
Hmm.
So my first 2 years, I coached the receivers, and then after 4 years after that, I coached the offensive line. So he brings me and Matt Schmitz in. Matt Schmitz was a GA the last couple of years, and Watson coached the quarterbacks. And he goes, "Hey, look, guys, I got something to tell you." He said, "We've had two offensive line coaches leave in 2 years," and he looks at us and he goes, "Hey, if you guys want to move up in this career, you're going to need to coach the quarterbacks, the offensive line. And I'm tired of the offensive line coaches leaving. Do you one of you guys want to coach the offensive line?" He said, "Because I'm coaching the quarterbacks." And Matt goes, "Nope," and I go, "I'll try it." And so I coached the offensive line for the last 4 years for Coach Brown. He's very, very hard on the offensive line coach, has extremely high expectations. Part of the reason he has high expectations is because I don't think he says that he understands the intricacies of that position, but he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't. Could he coach that position? He could coach anything, but would he be great at it because it's so intricate? It's a hard position to coach. You're coaching 40 something percent of the offense at all times. And but he was difficult, but I love him. I love him. I mean, I still talk to him this day.
So, transition from coaching, you got into the world of business and you started a company called MealFit.
Yeah.
How did that get started, and what should my listeners know?
That business started. So the Lord called us out of coaching. I didn't want to get out of coaching, but the Lord called us out of it. And so I got out of coaching. When I got out of coaching, I started working at a church and then started doing meal plans for people. This is before you could get a meal plan for free online in 30 seconds. So I was doing meal plans for people. That business grew, fast forward, that business grew to, I had thousands of clients in 27 different countries doing meal plans. It's
Wow.
astronomical. It's crazy. From there, we started catering. From there, we had a small restaurant. This is when I lived in Tennessee because we lived in Tennessee for 11 years, 5 years after we quit coaching. And that business just morphed. It grew.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It grew. Let's fast forward. A guy named Mark Pettis is the president of a place called Highlands College.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who I played with in college, who I was my roommate in college, and calls and says, "Hey, I want you to come do the food for the college." Never in a million years, Will, thought I'd move back to Birmingham. But it just goes to show you how the Lord will work and do things in your life that you don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
So move back to Birmingham and start doing the food for Highlands College. And in that, we created another company called Table and Time. So we have two different catering companies, Bill Fit and Table and Time. I don't do a whole lot with the food companies anymore. I help manage the contracts. I be with the staff some, but like for the most part, I'm not involved in the day to day with that. Um, I love business. I looked at my dad when I got out of coaching. I looked at my dad and I thought, I said, I'm not sure what I can do. And my dad looks at me and he goes, "You can do anything." And it was very, very encouraging for him as being a lifelong football coach to say that. But also, I didn't realize that the skills that I had built recruiting college football for however many years, going into schools and homes and talking to this person and talking to that person and being able to stand up in front of college kids, the toughest crowd in the world, in my opinion, the toughest crowd in the world, and be able to meet with these kids and teach these kids on a daily basis. Think about that. I did do that for 6 years. So the skills I made in the football world translated massively over to the business world, and we've had a good run. It's been a good experience.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, so, going into more business, you ventured in other areas of business
yeah,
called with
yeah.
Walcox Point, sorry, two lakeside rental properties in Alabama. What
Mhm.
motivated you to pursue properties and event planning?
Walcox Point was a legacy property that is something I want to keep in my family for generations. It's not an investment, but I've got to work at it because I got to rent it out when I'm not there. I got three kids, 16, 13, and 9, and they're going 19 miles an hour all the time. So I'm doing that, and so I don't have as much time to mess with that. But I've set the system up to where it rents out pretty good and it pays for itself. Um, the biggest thing that we do now, we are heavily, heavily involved in real estate. I've got
Hmm.
32 apartments, also own 32 apartments. Have a private money, a hard money lending company, where I lend to, you know, uh, house flippers and people like that. And then I also am really, really involved in annuities and cash flow management through life insurance. So infinite banking. Love this world. I love this world, Will. I really feel like I can help business owners, high income earners, and investors manage cash flow because a lot of people know business, but they don't know money. And over the past 10 years, I've learned a pretty good bit about it. Not an expert by any means, so I partner with a lot of people, but I love what I do. Get to work with Justin Kraft, Mike Schwally.
Mhm.
who's another former athlete at Birmingham Southern, and I really, really enjoy the financial world. And everybody asks the question, the two questions I get all the time: do you miss coaching? No, I don't. I miss the humans, but I don't miss the coaching.
Mhm.
And the second thing is, if you had to do it over again, what would you do? I said, if I had to do it over again, I'd go into finance. I'm not going to give you that esoteric answer of, oh, I'd do it again. Because no, I know God put me in the places He wanted to put me. But if I had to do it over again, if I knew what I knew now, I'd go into finance
Okay.
because I enjoy it more and it's a different lifestyle.
Gotcha.
So
Well, so you kind of briefly mentioned it there, but what was that first step like going from football into being a business owner?
there's a leap of faith, a very, very big leap of faith. And I thank Greg Canada, who was my boss in Tennessee, that gave me that job at the church. Took a massive pay cut, went from about 60 grand a year to about 35 grand a year, and had two kids. This was hard. Did that. It was a faith thing. Will, it really was just having to, step out on a limb and go, hey, God, I don't really know what you want me to do, but I'm going to do it. And we made 8,000 bucks the first year doing meal plans. We made 80 the next year doing meal plans.
Wow.
And so it was just something where God says, hey, you want to do this? It's going to hurt for a little bit. And I did it, and it did hurt, but it ended up being a wonderful, wonderful situation. So
Okay. Well, so you also have your own podcast,
I do.
Owner's Table.
Yeah.
What is that podcast about, and how can my listeners engage with that content?
Owner's Table is about talking to owners of businesses that are trying to kill it and do a great job, make money, leave legacy, but also understand and know that you don't have to work 1,000 hours a week. You can be a great dad. You can be a great business owner. You can be a great human. You can still stay in shape and do all of these things really, really well. But mainly we talk to business owners and talk a lot of finance, talk a lot of technicians, technique stuff on just like what business owners are doing, what they should do. And I like to hear people's stories. It's crazy hearing everybody's story, but it's a lot of fun.
Awesome.
So where to answer your question, where can people find us? Um, my website is thomascox.co,
Hmm.
thomascox.co. All of our podcasts are on there. We're on Spotify, we're on Apple, we're on YouTube. But the title of the podcast is called Owner's Table by Thomas Cox with Thomas Cox. But if you go to thomascox.co, you can hit podcasts to see all our episodes. We're over 100 episodes now, which I think is pretty awesome.
That's fantastic.
Yep.
So, kind of transitioning here again, what advice would you give to college athletes who might not go pro but are
Yeah.
searching for meaning after their playing career?
That's great. If you're getting NIL money, invest your NIL money. Number one. Number two is do internships. Go find people that you are doing what you want to do or you think you want to do, and go sit with them for free. Don't make them pay you. But the internship is this: an internship or a shadow or whatever. What that does is when I have interns, I say, hey, look, you can, or one of two things. If you get into this internship and you go, I love this, this is amazing, I want to do this the rest of my life, that's a win.
Hmm.
Okay. If you get into this internship and said, this sucks, I don't ever want to do this, this is awful, that's a win too. Being in and seeing the day to day of whatever it is you think you want to do is
Hmm.
incredibly important.
Yeah.
You can't chase things for money,
Hmm.
even though money is important. You can't chase things for money. You need to chase things. Typically, athletes need to chase things where they can compete at,
Hmm.
meaning they can add value. They can press, raise the bar, all those things. They need to be in something that they can compete in, whether it be finance, whether it be business, whether it be real estate. I don't know, but they need to be in something that they can compete in because it's hard to let that thing go. And understand too that your meaning is not tied to your ability. Your meaning is tied to Jesus and what He is in your life, and how can I reflect Him in all that I do. That's a massive, massive deal.
All right. Well, so was there a specific game or moment, maybe during your college career or, a little time after that, maybe in coaching or something that taught you something that you still carry into your work life today?
Hmm. Yeah, the East Carolina game. Okay, so I got a seventh grade son, and he got benched.
Mm.
He did something he shouldn't have done, and he got benched. And I looked at him. I said, "Hey, Ton T," I said, "T, you have to always be ready because you never know when your opportunity is going to come.
Mm.
Always be ready." Always be ready. I heard a guy say, if you're always ready, you ain't never got to get ready.
Yep.
How do you stay always ready in everything that you're doing? Exercise is an incredibly important part of my life. Always stay ready. Reading and always trying to be ahead of the next thing from a business standpoint, from a life standpoint, from a spiritual standpoint. Always be ready. Be ready for whatever the God or the world or whatever is going to bring to you. Be ready. And so you're always in a preparation mode. Don't turn it off.
Mm-hmm.
Don't turn it off. Keep going. Occupy yourself. Be positive. If you're awake, be getting better. And it's probably I kind of do it to a fault sometimes, I think, but it's a task and it's a thing that I really really think is valuable.
All right. Okay. Well, kind of a broad question now, but how is life overall now?
If it was any better, there'd be two of me. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been blessed so much with just business and the. I got great kids. I got a great wife. We live in Trustful. Everybody's got their bumps. Everybody's got their kid issues. Everybody's got their marriage issues. Everybody's got their things that come up. Everybody does. And if they say they don't, they're wrong. Um, but I enjoy what I'm trying to relish in what I'm doing. I overhired at work, so I don't have to be there as often. But I really really enjoy what I do. I
Mm-hmm.
do. I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy being with my kids. I'm with my kids a lot, and so those things are a pretty big part of who I am and what I do.
That's great.
Yep.
So, one more regular question here for you. How, I asked about the podcast, but how can my
Yeah.
listeners engage with you in other ways or keep up with your latest updates?
ThomasCox.co is the best part, or I'm on socials. I'm on all the socials. Find me. Find me on LinkedIn. Find me on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, whatever. Just find me. I'm happy to answer DMs or questions or whatever, and just be an open book.
All right. Well, and I got one more question for you.
Ask
It's
it.
a
Yeah.
social media question. I got it from your buddy Justin Kraft. You mentioned him
Just
already.
I love him. Yeah.
He asked, "What happened to all that hair?"
All that hair. All that hair. So what I started going bald, started losing my hair about 4 or 5 years ago, and I didn't think too much of it.
Mhm.
But as it started getting going, it started getting going. So we're at breakfast one morning. This is a true story. We're at breakfast one morning. We just got done working out, and we get home. My wife looks at me, and she's super respectful with it, and she goes, "Hey, man, hair. It really looks you really look bald." And I go, and she was nice about it. She's not rude at all. And I go, okay. So I called two friends. I called a guy named Mark, and I called a
Mhm.
guy named David. And I said, "Hey, what do you think?" He's like, "Do it, do it. You're gonna wish you did it longer ago." And one day I walk in the living room and the kids are sitting around. And I go, "Hey, look at Jackie, my wife. I go, hey, I'm fixing to go shave my head." She goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." And I go, and I waited for a day or two, and I finally went in there and said, "Hey, I'm going to shave my head." She goes, "Okay." So I went in there and I did it. It's the best decision ever made from a physical keep it up with standpoint. I love it. I should have done it 2 years earlier. So
Looking sharp. Looking sharp.
thanks.
Well, Thomas, man, thank you so much for being on. I really appreciated all your great stories, great perspective and everything from, college coaching and, definitely the world of business. It's awesome to get to know you. I hope you enjoyed the trip down memory lane.
Thanks. Appreciate it,
All right.
Will.
Go Blazers.
Go Blazers.
All right. Special thanks to Thomas for joining me. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'm hoping to have more episodes coming soon. So make sure that you're following my social media channels on Facebook, Instagram, and X for new episode announcements to see who's coming next. You can also find game day posts, throwback content, and more on my pages. So go check it out by searching the handle at Dragon's Den EFEL. Before I go, I do want to send my well wishes and prayers to my friend John Duncan and his family. John and the guys at the Blazer Victory podcast do an amazing job, and John has been through a lot lately. So I just wanted to say that the Blazer family is here with you, and we're sending lots of love your way. And that's going to do it for episode 52 of The Dragon's Den. Thanks again for listening. Good night, and go Blazers.